This is my story as influenced by the third block courses, the knowledge I was given, and the many wisdoms which arose from my practice. Estesmans and Gunter presented the theory that we must not just teach students what we want them to learn, but to teach them how to learn. Before beginning this semester, I would have agreed to this statement. However, it was not until I lived through this semester that I learned why. One of the first elements towards wisdom was considering who sat inside of my classroom. Through investigating the community where our students went to school, lived, ate, studied, and played, we were able to change our thinking from looking for elements that are missing to finding elements that are already there and highlighting them to encourage students' performance rather than deter them. Idea suggested by Catherine Bomer. My classroom is made up of 18 students, 16 of which had first language other than English. I also came to discover a majority of my students lived between two of the foundation communities in the neighborhood. Identifying these factors and others which define the culture in my classroom allowed me to understand the type of language, resources, and references I would use to teach them. The small group of 4 that I was assigned to intervene with were not only tested as some of the lowest readers in the class, but came with a warning label for their less than desired behavior. One of the greatest lessons I walked away with from this group was to leave those labels at the door and discover their learning strengths and room for growth based on our experiences together. The second step towards my wisdom came in discovering how students learn, learning their learning processes, understanding the brain, and working with exercises to accommodate for that learner's needs. Barbara Cohen's theory suggests that understanding what areas of a student's brain needs more practice and addressing that need can help that student succeed for the rest of their learning career. This semester, I was taught to reconsider my definition of literacy. I grew to understand that literacy is not only knowing how to read and write, but being able to comprehend the world around us. Understanding and teaching our students different modes of literacy is the first leap into understanding what they know and still need to discover about the world. To discover how my students learn and redefine their literacies, I took their thinking outside of the textbook and into new dimensions. We practiced comprehension strategies such as questioning, as well as tried new learning techniques such as sketch to stretch. My new favorite way to discover what and how my students were learning was through exit slips. This strategy gave me insight into possible areas that needed to be revisited or redesigned. Harvey Daniels brought another new wisdom into my repertoire through making me question how we can engage student thinking. Writing to learn became a new frequent in my teaching vocabulary as I grew to understand the importance of getting students to engage in their thought process. Teaching myself and my students the importance of understanding where their thinking comes from and recognizing the value of getting there definitely meant teaching them that those thoughts were much more than a grade. Learning this semester has not only been for my students, but also for myself. I learned how to write to learn through several reading responses, my most favorite being writing from a word. This technique proved extremely difficult for me because it required me to play with my thoughts, get them down on paper, and worst of all, leave them there. Producing those raw thoughts give me the truest and most honest reflections. Originally segmented with colored and labeled dividers, my literacy notebook is now crammed and tabbed and stickered with merely dates to denote one entry from another. It contains the thoughts and powers which have consumed me throughout the semester, presented in a way that would earn a solid 0 when measured on presentation. Looking for my development or transition through my experiences, and we're talking about grade A work. Believing that students are gifted in designing our curriculum to display those beliefs is yet another wisdom I have learned this semester. Empowering our students to succeed begins with us, the teacher. To know they will do well means that they will do well. Ensuring this wisdom takes place as we provide a well-designed curriculum that sets students up for success. Understanding by design is inevitably the same roadmap used in the schools we have been learning and practicing at over the past several years. I have always detested the idea of these standards until Wiggins and McTeague clearly uncovered its purpose. I now harness the value of UBD design, which thrives on well-designed and innovative teaching approaches. With a group of pre-labeled students, it is difficult to approach them with a teach-up mentality. Like any students, though, especially our language learners or special needs students, it is imperative to believe in what they are capable of. The key is to let go of the labels, discover what each student needs and knows, then progressing from there. Measuring and monitoring student learning is one of the most vital yet difficult pieces of wisdom I procured through this semester. Johnston proposes that it is through choice words that we effectively monitor student thinking. Through informal assessments, we begin to grasp if students are learning, following with more formal assessments which begin to represent us and our students for others. Conducting student conferences this semester really opened my eyes to monitoring student thinking as well as helped me grasp the practice of informal assessments. Keeping track of student progress using questioning strategies and allowing the student to convey their thoughts are the solid techniques I have mastered through these conferences. Recognizing the progression in these conferences show us where reteaching may need to take place before more formal assessment. Unfortunately, the testing anxiety caused from the STAR test has really influenced the way students like my third graders imagine all measurement tests to be. The pressure that has been placed on them and their teacher has left major holes between well-constructed and poorly constructed exams. I have found this semester that understanding the common mistakes and the proper practices of test questions can be the key to helping students knock tests like the STAR out of the park. The last and perhaps arguably the most important wisdom I have collected through the semester is acknowledging that becoming a teacher is not the know-all end-all. I have discovered that there are thousands of practices to learn and hundreds of ways to manipulate teaching moves. Rather than attempting to memorize them all, I commit to continuing my learning and sharing that learning with my students. One of the most important ways we can continue our learning as educators is through the process of learning and observing other classrooms. It may be well known that we all make mistakes, but as educators we often forget to fix them. I learned this practice through conferencing with my cooperating teacher throughout the semester. She ensured that the lesson I had worked on so hard still had room to grow. Learning as an educator also means keeping up with the latest trends, the newest technology, and the hottest research around. Right now, I am learning to become a teacher, a process I enjoy sharing with my students. Doing so reminds them and myself that we are all learners, and the information we keep in our heads only goes so far as the amount of information we choose to put in it. All of these elements have compiled to show me what I believe about who I am as an educator, what I believe about learning, and what I believe about learners. I believe in the power of the student, who they are, what they know, and what they are capable of knowing. I believe in the power of choice as well as the value of thought over product. I value reflection and the never-ending joy of learning. It is with these beliefs that I empower the wisdom of my practice.